The following video will contain footage from the Fallout games, which are pretty violent. Some viewer discretion is advised. Don't show this to your kids, or I guess if your kids are older or adults, I don't know. Just be aware. The Fallout games hold a really special place in my heart. This long-running series of games has had us traversing the wasteland in search of hope, humanity, and junk for well over 20 years with no sign of slowing down. These are games that ask, what if nuclear apocalypse, but also fun? This video is going to be a celebration of those games. All of them. Well, almost all of them. I'll be sharing my thoughts about all of the mainline Fallout games from the original, by Black Isle/Interplay, to 2015's Fallout 4 from Bethesda. I won't be covering spin-offs like Fallout Tactics or Fallout 76, largely because I haven't played them. Let's talk about why there's a Fallout for everyone. The original Fallout was released in 1997, and it is a stone-cold classic in the CRPG genre. There's a lot of room to explore really deep, complicated systems that let you roleplay some really fun characters. Part of the joy of abstract systems that games like Fallout provide is that you get to imagine what's going on rather than seeing exactly what's happening. It's a really cool middle ground where you get the general visuals provided by the game combined with a D&D-esque description of your actions that give the game this really unique texture that feels so unlike any other experience you get with modern games. This does, however, come with a certain level of jank. Many of these mechanics are bloated, overcomplicated, and just poorly explained to the player. There's a real learning curve that you have to work to overcome if you want to have fun with these games, and I can't blame people for not being able to get into them. But if this is the type of experience you can get into, there's a whole lot to love about it. The original Fallout has excellent world and game design. HBomberGuy's Fallout 3 video goes into this in more detail, but your initial quest has you tracking down a replacement water chip for your vault. The only place marked on your map is another vault that could have it. Spoiler alert, it's not there, but directly in your path to the vault is a village where you can, and do, get new directions for a replacement water chip. This game is really good about providing organic directions for the player to keep them progressing and not feeling stuck. I absolutely love just how much room there is for player expression. Let's say you come across a locked door. You're given a number of unique ways to get past it. You can use the lockpicking skill to get past it, or you can try attacking the door with your weapons, or if all else fails, you can blow the door up. Not good at any of those things? Maybe there's a guard nearby and you can use your speech skill to convince them to open the door. This is a game that gives you lots of ways to solve problems, and each of them makes you feel really smart whenever you find those solutions. The quests are also really smart and make you think about what you're doing. Many actions have unintended consequences or create complications that have to be further resolved in some way. Quests aren't a simple matter of right or wrong. There's a lot of nuance that you're able to explore and exist in. The original Fallout? It's a real classic. So is Fallout 2. Fallout 2 takes what worked from Fallout 1 and just did a lot more of it. It took the world of Fallout 1 and moved it forward. There are new factions that developed as a direct result of your actions from the first game. Whole communities have sprung up and are vying for control of a world being rebuilt, or are otherwise just trying to survive. The world truly feels like its own living, breathing thing that exists, and you get to have your say in how it develops. The excellent RPG elements from the first game are developed even further. Fallout 1 lets you experience the game in a lot of different ways, but Fallout 2 really lets you play it how you want to play it. There's not really a right build to play. Most of your skills provide a valid avenue of experiencing the game, though there are still some skills that'll be used way more than others. I will say that I'm actually still working my way through Fallout 2, and I'm having a lot of fun with it. If you liked the first game, you'll definitely like this one. Oddly enough, I feel like Fallout 2 has a bit of a steeper learning curve than the first game. It takes a lot longer time to get good equipment, and the tutorial area is oddly difficult to get past. Even with that, I'm still having a blast playing. The quests are engaging and very well written. I suppose I should also talk about the aesthetics of the first two games, since they share a lot of assets. These games look okay. I mean, what do you want? They came out in the late 90s. There's no way they can look that good. They're a mashup of Mad Max and 1950s retrofuturism. The direction is stronger than the execution. The audio works more to set a mood rather than present a distinct theme. The soundtrack is sparse in diversity. Most songs, if you want to call them that, evoke a haunting industrial atmosphere. It's engaging to listen to, but it's not really something you'll hum or throw on while you're driving to work. The game's core strength is still in its ability to engage you through smart writing. The story, at least what I've experienced so far, is all about determining your fate and the fate of the people who you encounter. How you do that is up to you. Entire communities live or die based on what you choose to do. There's no one right way to do things. There are choices and consequences, and you have to figure out what's the best way forward. I also want to note that these games can be pretty funny. Remember that water chip from Fallout 1? The item that you spend the first third of the game tracking down to save your vault? In Fallout 2, one of the early locations you go to just has tons of those. Water chips out the butt. The whole reason you went on your quest was because of a shipping mix-up. That's truly fantastic. After Fallout 2, the series went into a bit of a limbo. There were a few spin-off games, but they weren't very highly regarded. The original developers, Interplay/Black Isle Studios, went bankrupt and the series was picked up by Bethesda. Enter Fallout 3.
It's the age of Todd Howard, baby! T-pose for Todd!
I just want to note, I did actually do a T-pose while I was recording this. The Bethesda Fallouts have a bit of a bad reputation within the Fallout community. This is probably best exemplified by the popularity of HBomberGuy's video, Fallout 3 is garbage, and here's why. I'm here to say that the Bethesda Fallouts have a lot to offer if you look in the right places. I consider Fallout 3 to be one of my favorite games of all time. Before I get into what I love about the series, let me address a bit of criticism about this game. Yes, the deep, nuanced storytelling of Fallouts 1 and 2 isn't here. That really stinks. I love that about the old games. Nuanced storytelling just isn't one of Bethesda's strengths, and that's really on display here. However, creating an engaging open world that lets you explore wherever you want, that is where the game excels. I have poured hundreds of hours into exploring the capital wasteland, and I still find new things to enjoy about the game every time I play it. The translation from isometric top-down gameplay to a fully realized 3D world that you explore in first person is a pretty seamless one. Traveling in the old games was a bit of a chore and not really fun. Fallout 3's world constantly offers you interesting places to explore. The sheer amount of fun you have in just discovering all the environments that Bethesda created cannot be understated. This is an incredibly fun game that embraces Fallout's aesthetics. That 1950s retrofuturism I mentioned, they cranked that dial to 11. All the little details that gave a neat texture to the original games become a defining characteristic in Fallout 3. The visual world building tells us so much about the society that existed before the bombs fell that you don't need the previous two games to understand why the world exists in its current state. Bethesda's environmental storytelling does an excellent job of relaying lore and history that had to be explicitly told in the previous games. This was my first Fallout game, but I never felt like I lacked an understanding of the game world. That kind of information can be incredibly difficult to get across to the player, but Bethesda does it effortlessly. Then they also added VATS. VATS has been praised by everyone, so I don't have a whole lot to add, but I will say it's pretty incredible how well the system captures the spirit of the turn-based gameplay in the old games. Mechanically, it really does feel like they've taken the spirit of those games and put it into something much more modern and approachable, and I think that approachability really paid off. Fallout is a series that is now bigger than ever thanks to the work of Bethesda, and I realize that popularity isn't necessarily a mark of quality, but it's really cool how many people are into these games because of Fallout 3. People like me. Still, I do miss the deeply nuanced storytelling of those old games. If only there was a game that married the approachability of this new 3D style of Fallout with the depth of Fallout 1 and 2.
Oh wait! That's this game! It's this one!
Developed by Obsidian Entertainment, New Vegas isn't just a game concerned with presenting the world of Fallout in glorious 3D. It's a thoughtful update of that world. Old factions are back, but they're presented in new ways and have new challenges for you to engage with. The Mojave Wasteland is beautifully paced and full of role-playing opportunities. The tutorial area gives you lots of opportunities to use the skills you get. The first main quest involves rallying the town to defend against the powder gainers. Or, if you want, you can help out the powder gainers. I don't care, I'm not your dad. But you should definitely help out the town because you're a good person and I believe in you. I absolutely love how the different factions really embody different viewpoints on how to rebuild society. H-Bomber Fallout New Vegas is genius, and here's why, talks about this in much more detail and sophistication than I ever could, so go check his video out. It's a pretty great watch. Fallout 3 had a bad habit of bringing back factions just because we knew of them, but it didn't do a whole lot with them. New Vegas really thinks about how these different societies have developed in the wasteland and how prior experiences have shaped their current outlook. But it's not just old factions. New factions are here too. Caesar's Legion of cosplayers are a really interesting addition to the Fallout world. Not many games could add a bunch of Roman wannabes and have you go, yeah, this makes sense. There's a whole lot to love about New Vegas. There are really interesting companions that can dramatically shape your interactions with the game world. There's the brilliantly textured Western setting. The story is really engaging and can be approached from a number of significantly different ways. You can genuinely shape the world to your liking, and it's really awesome. Seriously, just go play New Vegas. It's so good. Fallout 4 is not my favorite Fallout game, but it's still a really fun game. It takes the elements that made Fallout 3 fun, namely the world exploration, and just does a lot more of that. The story is fine. I've actually never played the story to completion because I lose interest after a certain point, and I just can't resist traveling around the Commonwealth. One of the new additions to Fallout 4 was that your character is now fully voiced. I'm not a big fan of that since it feels like it takes away your ability to roleplay to a certain extent, but I do have to say it's pretty funny how the game handles dialogue skipping. Feels like your character is really just trying to hurry along the conversation.
So he had the skills to spiff up the Warwick pump. Should we rustle his jimmies with something?
Sure.
My disappointment with the game's story put aside, this is a really, really fun game to play, and it does feel like Bethesda made a genuine effort to answer some of the criticisms of Fallout 3. There are brand new factions introduced in this game. They aren't very deep, but it's at least something. The Brotherhood of Steel is back, and this time they feel like they actually have a bit of their own motivations for doing things. At least I think they do. It's been a while since I played through any of that quest line. The moment-to-moment gameplay has been overhauled pretty significantly. The act of shooting feels so much better. VATS was pretty necessary for most situations in Fallout 3 since the shooting was just kind of eh. Fallout 4 fixes a lot of the shooting mechanics so that you don't have to rely on the VAT system all the time. Power armor is now a big deal. It's not just armor with better stats, it genuinely changes how the game is played. I absolutely adore this change. Weapons and armor can be pretty dramatically modified and turned into something that uniquely reflects your playstyle. It's awesome. In some ways, Fallout 4 is more of a settlement building simulator, but I don't mean that in a bad way. The settlement building is really addictive and helps create the sense that you're an active force in rebuilding the world. Fallout 4 also fixes the issue of random junk lying around the game world. Fallout 3 had a lot of the same items, but you now have a reason to pick up this junk since it can be converted into parts used in the settlement building and weapon mods. With Fallout 4, I really want to make the point that Bethesda Fallout games aren't bad, they're just different games that pursue different ideas of game design. I'll admit that they're weaker when it comes to the role-playing aspects and story, but they're still really fun games. Bethesda is really good at creating worlds that are fun and rewarding to explore. These are eminently immersive experiences that lay out the whole world before you and say, go have fun. Still, I do wish the story was deeper. Maybe now that Microsoft owns both Bethesda and Obsidian, they'll let Obsidian make another Fallout. I mean, if we have to suffer through this quasi-monopolistic late-stage capitalism merger, the least they can do is give us another really amazing Fallout. There's a Fallout for everyone. I hope I made the case for why each of these Fallouts has something to enjoy no matter what sort of experience you're looking for, and I want to close with some thoughts about why Fallout is specifically for me now. It took a pandemic to really cement why I love these games so much. While they all provide a different type of experience, there's the core element of you as the player interacting with the game world. When the real world is as it is and life is hard, these games give me the chance to live out the fantasy of being a good man in a world gone wrong. Fallout forces you to think about the nature of your actions and to consider the wider consequences. How do you know what you're doing is good? It's thoughtful and engaging, and in a world where we are largely powerless to do anything about huge problems, it's strangely comforting to have these games that let you embrace humanity in the wake of humanity's destruction. Maybe the real fallout was the friends we made along the way. Wait, is that really how I'm ending this? Hey, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you didn't, I'm very sorry. You can tweet at Team YouTube for your refund. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Tell me what you enjoy about Fallout. I'd love to continue the conversation in the comments below. Thank you for watching. Keep an eye on your health bar.